Okay. This is one
Yeah.
of the coolest things I've seen in MSG, and I've seen the fucking Spice Girls in
And I
MSG,
saw the
okay?
fucking Spice Girls here, to see the hot dog flying in, you're just like, whoa. I
Whoa.
just, I just, I think.
What's up, folks? Welcome back to the Best Show Ever podcast. The podcast where we talk about the best shows that people have ever seen in their lives. I'm your host, Cam Herdt, and it's a pretty cool week we got going on here. We got two very, very cool women in the music scene that I have been looking forward to talking to for quite some time. And the episode you're listening to right now is with Juliana Bernstein, aka Get Tiny or Tiny. Photographer in the music scene, specifically does a lot of photography for Goose. We ran into each other at Outside Lands, and she was taking photos throughout that weekend. She was at the Sphere. She was at the Super Bowl recently for the Eagles win. Juliana has done some very, very cool work. Her page, Get Tiny, at Get Tiny on Instagram, is a awesome page to follow if you like cool concert photography. And she's just been doing a bunch of cool stuff along the way. But we've run into each other and we've become buddies in a way. We bumped into each other at Outside Lands. I was wearing a photo that she took on a necklace. And we were talking, and she's like looking at my necklace. I was like, "Do you want to see the necklace?" She's like, "I took that picture." I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, I know that I took that picture at the Sphere." So her stuff is everywhere. You might even have been enjoying it, and you didn't even know you were enjoying it. And so I can't wait for y'all to hear from Juliana. We talk about a whole bunch of cool concert stuff and her job and how she got into that. Just want to thank you guys again for we got a bunch of new subscribers and a bunch of new followers on the podcast. That's a good thing. And so welcome to the show. If you are enjoying it, please go ahead and subscribe on YouTube and leave us a review or a rating on Spotify. You can leave a review or a rating on Apple Podcasts as well. All that stuff is super helpful in getting the word out about Best Show Ever. But yeah, welcome to the show. Hope you enjoy this week with Juliana Bernstein. We also have another great episode out right now with Jen from Dyer on the Mountain, who does a bunch of sweet ass dyes. And so check that episode out. Check out all the episodes that we got out so far in season 4. But that's enough intro out of me. Let me get out of the way here so we can enjoy this conversation that I had with Tiny, Juliana Bernstein, photographer, and a good friend of mine. Enjoy.
Because we're talking about Taylor Swift and the Eras.
Because I was like, damn, that would have been cool. But yeah, and I if there's any Taylor Swift Eras conversation, I gotta capture that.
Yeah,
that's what people listen to this podcast for.
We can run it back. Everyone who listens to this podcast loves Taylor Swift. I have a feeling.
Yeah. Everybody, everyone who follows the Best Show Ever Instagram page has like maybe like a Steely as their profile picture on Instagram, but really they want to talk about the Eras tour. They want to talk about Taylor Swift.
Secretly, everyone's a Swiftie. For every Steely, it's also a Swiftie.
I get messages from anonymous accounts like, "Hey, really great talk about Phish summer tour. Nothing about Taylor Swift?" Question marks. A whole bunch of them.
I thought this was Best Show Ever. Question mark. Where's the Eras tour?
And you didn't even mention the Eras tour.
It was
That's
cool.
Sick, though.
It was I'm happy I saw it. I hope she. I don't know. Part of me, after seeing it and knowing how long she's done it, I was like, I hope that this girl just like does like a 200 cap room tour acoustic set for her next run because she deserves it.
I think that her fans would tear each other apart. If there was only 200 tickets to one of the shows, they'd be $10 million a piece, and people would rip each other in half to get into the show.
It's like limb from limb.
Yeah.
Friendship bracelets, like arms just like flying across the room. Yeah, I agree.
It would be like Lord of the Flies if there was a 200 person. And all of these Taylor Swift fans would turn on each other, and it would be nuts. It'd be mayhem. She could tour under a different name, like the Dead did when they, like in the 80s when they played Hampton. She could be like Sabrina Carpenter or something. Something
still think
that
there
people
would be
don't know.
mayhem. I still
Yeah, I think
think
there'd still be mayhem. Fuck. Never mind.
she'd have to do it would be like Sailor Twift. People would have
Yep.
no idea. They would never know. But it's cool. I'm glad I
Yeah.
saw it.
Were you were shooting it, or were you there seeing the show?
No, I just went to see it. We got hooked up with tickets and
Fuck yeah.
felt like an opportunity that I couldn't pass up, you know?
I mean, you go to so many shows and you're around a bunch of people who are enjoying the show, and you got to
Yeah,
work amongst them
yeah,
always.
yeah. I mean, I do go see a lot of shows. Say that my hobby when I'm not working shows is just going to shows, which maybe
Yeah.
is lame.
No.
But
I think that there's like an assumed thing that people who work in whether whatever industry cool thing it is, like if you work in sports, you're probably not a huge sports fan because that's how you got the job, right? Like, or
yeah,
if you're not people who work at a Broadway theater are probably not like massive Broadway heads because otherwise they wouldn't be able, like there's always that kind of like adage. But like you are a fan of music and you
yeah,
shoot music, and I'm
yeah.
sure that probably comes through in what you do, you know.
I would hope so. Maybe not.
I think it does. I love your photos. I love all your pictures, and yeah, they're shot by someone who loves live music, and
Yeah,
so yeah, very cool.
that's true. Yeah. I didn't think I'd like go from like Goose tour to like Era's tour, like, within like a week, but like,
The
it was
natural jump.
fun. The night, a 3 hour set, 3 hour set, like you can handle it, it's all
Same
just
band.
same vibe, really. Same fan base.
Rick and Taylor
Uh,
are like pretty much the same prolific artists.
you
Um,
know, yeah, why not? They're both great, writing lyrics and, they can play the guitar pretty well. So, why not the same?
same, and their fans are pretty equally stoked. Like if there's there was a 200 person cap Goose
Yeah,
show
exactly.
recently at the Troubadour, and that was really hard to get tickets for. Yeah,
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 and their fans were stoked. So,
and their
yeah, it
fans are
was,
stoked.
and the fans are stoked. So it was cool. It's like it's like, it's worth seeing the spectacle of it all, you know?
Yeah,
And which I think is true for like any massive tour or artist. It's like, it's worth like being in the room to like feel the obsession with
yeah.
whatever it is. Yeah.
I mean, it's
That's cool.
especially for someone like you who you see behind the scenes of all the shows that you work, like you see
Yeah.
the effort that goes in with the team and with the band and with everyone who's involved, and like something like the Eras tour, or just like a massive, I mean there's really not another tour to compare it to like going right now, but like yeah, as someone who works in music, you probably want to just go and be like, man, this is a fucking huge day to pull off. And they've been
Yeah.
doing it for like 2 years now
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, you think about like the level, like just seeing her trucks parked. She's got like 90 something trucks. And just like to see the trucks all parked outside, I was like, damn, this crew works hard. Like
Yeah.
to have that much to like load in, load out, to like put up every show. And then like you think, she's got like 20 dancers and like a band of 10. It's just, you don't know. It's like a huge effort from a lot of people every single night to like make this massive performance happen. So it's cool. Cool to see.
Yep. And you get to go there. You didn't have to work. You get to enjoy the show and chill. Was there like a big highlight from the show? Were you
Um,
like, oh shit, we're here. This is the Eras tour.
I think like seeing the things I've like seen online a lot. So like when she has this song off of her album Reputation, which is probably the only album I like really know.
Yeah.
This is my Swiftie face. I don't know.
Yeah. You got to do that.
You just like when you're talking about her, you have to like,
Yeah.
Uh, but she does this song and she like it belts out this like note and like the stage rises up and the lights all go and it like looks like church and like it feels like, and it's just like to see it live, you're kind of just like, okay, damn Taylor, that was pretty cool. And then the end, she like plays like a hit and everyone dances and there's like confetti and I don't know. There's pyro, and she's like in a sparkly jacket, and like young girls are like screaming their faces off, and you're kind of just like, all right, I get it. Like this is the
I
vibe.
get it. I get it. You're like the friend that gets brought along to the jam band show. Like, all right, I
Yeah,
get
you're
it.
like, I get it. I see it. You know?
Okay, I see why you go to 100 of these a year. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Like I see what you paid. I know. I don't. I've been paying the like $1 million to go see her. I think I mean, I think that's for any show. It's just like wild, but I get it. I get people like wanting to be in the room. It's cool. Yeah.
She gives you what you pay for. Hopefully, a
Hopefully.
big ass show. Well, that's sick. And I'm sure we will talk about kind of the difference between like going to shows as a photographer and doing what you do now, and also just going to shows as a fan of live music. But
Yeah.
to get started over all of that, what was the first concert you ever saw in your life ever?
Um, Hard to say because my parents are also big show people.
Yeah,
So like I have heard that I was like brought to James Taylor at Jones Beach in like 1992, but I was like 3 months old, so like maybe not. Like I don't really know
you don't remember the
what
show?
I unfortunately
What do you open with?
I have a lot of memories of my parents singing James Taylor, but I
Oh
don't
yeah.
remember that particular show. I think the first show I truly remember, like that was like my memory, is I went to see the Spice Girls in
Ooh,
1998 at MSG, and I think that was my Eras tour.
I
You
was just
know?
gonna say that is a major tour in that time for
Yes.
sure. Oh
Yeah.
man, you had to be
Yeah.
freaking out.
I was freaking out. I was the Spice World tour. I'm pretty sure I had like a whole fit. I was obsessed with them. Like
Yeah.
I was really a Spice Girls girl. And yeah, that's the first show. I remember like, and my mom agrees to this, is I remember like thinking I was gonna faint like when they came out on stage, and I think my mom was like, "Yeah, you were gonna pass out. You were just like freaking out."
And do you pass out?
I don't think I did. I think I held
Okay,
it together
held it
to see the
together.
show. But that to me, and it was at MSG, and it was like the Spice World tour, and I just yeah, that to me that was like that started it off. I was like, "This is the greatest thing ever. No
Was the
feeling can
movie out?
beat."
Was
I
that like
think the
touring
movie
the
was
movie?
out. I think
Oh
so.
man.
I mean, I could be totally wrong. I need to maybe do some research on the show. I just remember, I know that that was the show that I was like, that was
Holy
it for me.
crap, dude.
Yeah.
Was this like you got to go with your friends, or like you just went with your mom, or like was it, how did you?
In my memory, it was like me and my mom. I'm sure we went with like a friend and her mom, if I
Yeah,
like knowing my mom, um, or my sister. Although my
yeah.
sister, like, she was like already too cool for school. She's 2 years older than me, but she was like 7, and she was like, nah, fuck that. Fuck the Spice
I'm not
Girls.
seeing the Spice Girls, okay? Like real shit. She's smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, exactly. She like has like her foot on one of the Barbie dolls, and she's like, nah,
Oh,
it's not
fuck
for me.
that. Have
But
fun. That's
that,
cute.
yeah, so that's my first show ever that I remember is the Spice
Man.
Girls.
Yeah. Epic production. Huge show. I
Yeah.
mean, just funny that we were talking about Taylor Swift because, yeah, like they're like, in that time, the like pop group was such a big deal. And they were like, I mean, did NSYNC or Backstreet Boys have a fucking movie?
I
I
don't
don't
think
remember.
so. Not
I
in
don't
that
think so.
way.
They were
Yeah.
just huge.
The
They're
Spice
still
Girls
huge.
to Eras Tour pipeline, though, like
There's a lot of the little girls at that show
or also,
adults
yeah.
at getting a $25 cocktail at the fucking
Exactly,
Eras tour.
exactly. I can see the line very, very clearly.
Everyone's nodding at
Um,
each other. Oh yeah, hey,
they're like,
how's it
yeah,
going?
you were there. I
You did
also
One
was there.
Direction. We all did One Direction,
And
and
now
now
we're
we're all.
back. That was something I never got into. I never was into One Direction, but I also will say I think it's crazy to see the pop group from like the 90s become like the pop girly in like the 2020s because
Yeah,
it's not really about the group anymore. It's really about the girlies, which is kind of
right.
great,
The
you know?
individual girlies. But could you imagine if there was like the pop stars that are coming up like right now, like the Chapel Roans and the like Sabrina Carpenter, like we said, or I mean, even like like Charlie XCX, if they were a group,
Yeah,
could you
yeah.
imagine?
Well, we were talking, I forget, I think I was talking to a friend about this, but we were talking about like Coachella headliners that like could really break the internet. And I was like, if they did a Spice Girls tribute with the pop girlies, like Sabrina, Charlie XCX, you know, Chapel, maybe Taylor comes in as just like mother of them all, and I think that would just like break
You would
everything.
not you would not hear the show
No, I don't think you
over
could.
the screaming and the yell. You would not. They don't have speakers that are loud enough
No.
to combat the screaming.
I also think Coachella would just like be empty. Like it would be great for people who like other music there because you could just go to every show and see everything by yourself because everyone would just be waiting at the stage
Yeah.
for this group. So that, could really benefit me who like loves to go early and see all the bands.
Yeah, we had front row for the Misfits. Actually, there was no one behind us
Yeah,
either.
that was
It
it.
was
It was
just
just
8 of us at the Misfits.
there was like 12 of us. It was so sick. No one else came.
And then there was 400,000 people at the other stage.
Yeah, all day,
So
just
that
waiting.
was cool.
Yeah, that's cool. It
Um,
is. I will say it's funny when you go to festivals and you see that, like, you see girls waiting for like Noah Khan, who's on at like 11 p.m. and then they just are there for all the artists that come before, and you're just like, you don't know who this is, but we're here. We love
yeah, and
it.
you're like, there's some other stuff you could probably check out today, and you almost probably still get the spot, you know?
Yeah, but no, the rail
But it's
girlies. We're just gonna talk about all the girlies, the rail girlies, the pop girlies.
no, that's can we not? Because I burn all that with Cotter. All we talk about is the girlies with Cotter, you know? It's just
Loves the girlies.
all he talks about this whole fucking time is Brat Summer. So we'll just have 2 episodes like that.
I did just teach him. He just learned about Brad Summer on this last
I,
tour.
I think I watched you teach Rick who Sabrina Carpenter was. Or maybe it was someone else. He was just like, "Oh yeah, I've heard that song." Like,
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. They're slowly. They need a girly to teach them about the girlies.
luckily there are people on the team. There are women on the team who can teach these guys. They're busy.
They're
Okay, they got to
busy.
fucking.
They're busy. But we got
They got to
the
do.
the girls of Goose Crew hold it down, and we inform them of the Chapel Rounds and the Sabrina Carpenters, and they learn. They learn what's up.
You're like, dudes, we got the news for you. Okay, Chapel Roan mad at people. They're like, oh,
Hates
okay.
everyone.
Who's that? And they're like, okay,
I'm like,
we got a
Brad
long way to go.
Summer, you just need like a cigarette on a treadmill. You got it. That's it. You're good. That's
Stuff
Brad.
is green.
It's Brad.
It's bad. There you go. You got it. It's all Brat. Just say that, and you're gonna be
Just
fine.
say that.
Rick.
Yeah, you'll.
Rick.
Yeah,
Rick is like
yeah.
this. Me and Rick are the same age, but that day I was like, he was like learning about pop stars like he's my dad. Like he was like, oh, okay, wow, cool outfits.
I think
He's
that
Jerry Seinfeld for some reason.
I think they're just they like the music they like, and the music that I don't see Charlie influencing Goose at any point,
You know what? And I didn't either. I'm just saying. It was just fun to watch
But
the people on
now
the team be like, just so you know, this is what's happening in the rest of the world right now. Well,
yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun to watch them be informed. No, Cotter and I was at the gym. We go to the gym sometimes. Sometimes Cotter also goes to the gym, and I go to the gym.
hell
And I
yeah.
was listening to Charlie XCX, and he was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "It's Brat." That was the beginning of the Brat lesson.
And like, just, yeah, like, those guys have like brilliant musician brains, and they've got a deep well of musical knowledge, and they pull really cool covers whenever they decide they want to do covers. And, they are clearly brilliant with music. So hearing them or watching them hear Sabrina Carpenter, like, oh, okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Like dissecting it a little
She
bit.
knows she knows what's going on.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a worst show that you ever saw in your life? Worst concert ever? Or maybe even a worst, maybe it wasn't even the band's fault. Maybe it was your fault and you got a little
Yeah.
too something.
I don't think I have a worst show ever in terms of like the show was the worst, but like
Yeah.
I have been the worst. You know,
That's a good way to put it. Do you have a worst show or have you been the worst?
I've been the worst.
Oh,
I
no.
think, but I've also like, okay, twofold. I've seen a bad show that got better because of my decisions, and I've seen a show that was good that got worse because of my decisions.
Wow.
So I have twofold of those. Is that how you use twofold?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah. I just checked and
maybe.
yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Looked
That's
it
how you
up.
use it.
It's twofold. Um, the show that got better because of my decisions, I went to go see Beck and MGMT,
Yeah. Cool.
maybe like 2008 in New York. Really bad show
Mm.
until like an hour into the show, and then it was a great show.
Things caught up
Things caught
and all of a
up,
sudden
and all of
MGMT
a
was
sudden,
like amazing.
and then Beck was just like ripping.
Yeah.
Yes.
This guy's a
Um,
genius.
you're like, man, really? This
I
guy?
also haven't seen Beck, but yeah, that feels like the show. That feels like
Yeah,
you're like, no
yeah,
matter what, you're a little like, what is this? And then
yeah,
there's points where you're like, holy shit, this is amazing.
yeah. But it was
Yeah.
it was definitely like first half of the show this
What's going
face,
on?
and then second half of the show like that face.
What?
So I
That-
think
For people listening on Spotify, just pull up YouTube. You can see both faces. And if you guess what the faces are, if you're just listening, you're probably right. First
yeah,
half was kind of like, and then the second half was kind of like, yeah.
nailed
Yeah.
it. You nailed it exactly. Um, and then yeah, and then I think the worst show ever by my fault again was I went to go see Justice at Coachella in
Yeah.
2000. No, it wasn't Justice. It was The Strokes. It was the year that Kanye played. So I guess it was like 2011, 2012.
Mm.
Kanye headlined. Huge Strokes fan. Grew up in New York. I've always loved them. They're like an OG band for me. And I had a bad time. I went to go
Oh,
see the show was great. They were, I think, phenomenal, but I had a really bad time.
oh, that
And that was
sucks.
sad. It sucks
You,
when you make yourself have a bad time. That's just like the
yeah.
worst.
It's all my fault. I can't even blame it on the guys next to me or something.
No, no. I kind of could, because I'm very small in stature, and
Someone could say
everyone,
tiny.
you could say tiny. You could say that. Um, but it was like one of those crowds where like everyone was like moving like 3 feet to the left and like 3 feet to the right.
Yeah.
And like when you're not in a good state and you're physically getting moved like around in a crowd, it's like it's kind of scary. So that ended
Yeah.
up being a bad show for me.
Anything happening outside of your control is like a lot. Is a
Yeah,
lot. And
yeah,
yeah. Or being
yeah,
touched at
yeah,
all. And
yeah.
is a lot. And yeah.
So getting like
Uh
physically like moved side to side and like trying to watch a band you love, but like knowing that you're having a terrible, terrible time, which also makes it worse, right? Is you're like, I'm missing this show because I'm having a terrible time, you know?
yeah. And then all of a sudden the thoughts start running away. You're like, I just want to stop. Just everyone stop. For 1 second. Band stop. All right, we're cool. Continue.
Yeah, exactly. It would be
But you
great if
can't.
you could just like,
Ah!
forge your own little pocket.
Just like raise your hand really quick. You guys?
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody?
We could just calm down. I
Time
will
out?
say there was
Time in.
there was great security at that show. I had friends who were with me and they were like, I wanted to like get out. I was like, enough of the mosh pit. I feel like I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
And they were like, we can either crowd surf you back, which to me in that time, in that moment, I was like, nothing could be worse than that. Simply, I'd rather die here than get crowd surfed.
We could do what you're doing right now, or we could do it with your feet off the ground and you're in the air. And you have
And
no control.
separate from you entirely. I was like, nope.
Yeah.
Or They're like, or you can try and get security's attention. Securities, I think, saw me instantly because I looked like a drowning child in a sea of men. And they pulled me out over the rail. And I got to sit at the rail for like a second while I was like mid panic attack coming down off, the moment and whatever I had taken. And then I like finally calmed down. And then the second I was calmed down and I could actually enjoy the show, they were like, get the fuck out. So
Yeah,
it
right.
was like, yeah.
You all good now? All right. Fucking get the
Yeah,
fuck to the back of the show.
So that was that's probably worst show ever by my own hand. Yeah.
Did you get to see the Strokes again? Have you seen them?
I have seen them. I've actually photographed them and
Sick.
have seen them, and yeah. But like I think 2020's Strokes versus like 2010's Strokes, different vibe, Still
For
cool,
sure.
still great, but definitely, different vibe. But still great.
Sometimes we'll at a Fish show, me and my brother will call a song like let's say we're getting a twist or whatever, and Kyle will be like Redemption Twist because the last time he saw Twist, he was like not doing well, or he was,
Yeah.
went to the bathroom and they played Twist or something or whatever it was, and so we'll be like look at each other and be like Redemption. So you got a Redemption Strokes
Yeah.
show. It's not the
Yeah,
same.
definitely. It's not the same, but it did redeem. It redeemed my experience with them for sure. Yeah.
Nice. Well, it's very difficult to pick your best show ever. Do you have any honorable mention shows that you would be remiss not to bring up?
I feel like I just have so many.
Yeah,
Like
it's a dumb show. It's a weird, stupid show.
this concept is kind of, as people who go to a lot of shows, what are you doing here?
Everybody who I have on has been to. There's no one who's been to like one show. It was like, oh man, that one show, dude. Everyone I've had on is like hundreds and hundreds of fucking shows. And they're like, I don't even know. I don't know.
I feel like that should be a challenge for you though. Like find somebody whose first concert ever it is, and then just like be like, this is your best show ever, and just like deem it for them, and then you can talk to them about it.
Exactly.
And that's how you control them.
Yeah.
I mean, I started like my music journey is like classic rock to like I came like of age in like the age of and like grew up in New York, so I was like really in the electronic music scene. Like that was like a big thing for me, and then it's also like that's kind of my career started in that direction. So I think like seeing Justice in New York for the first time in like 2007 at Terminal 5, like with all my friends, like wearing a full American Apparel outfit, like that was like a really transformative moment for me.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people listening can relate to that feeling. But it was big. I mean, that was a big show for me. That like I was like, yeah, like this is what it's about,
And that had to feel like a there's so many other like huge electronic artists in that time and stuff, and like the stuff that pops up in New York, you just don't get that anywhere else in the country. So yeah, I'm sure that like when you're seeing electronic music in the city and you're seeing them at cool venues, it feels like it's a little bit more yours, like
yeah,
like in Milwaukee you get like pretty, like that's where I was going to college,
yeah,
and so you get like Pretty Lights when they are already popular, or like fucking Skrillex, like that's it, like or local guys. And so like when you're seeing these like cool new artists kind of not even new, but just popping
I
up
think
in New York.
it was and I had a lot of friends who like DJ'd or like were learning to DJ and like were kind of like evolving in that scene. And we were in high school, so like I was young, and like that to me was just like I just like felt so cool. Like I was like, this is cool, and I am cool. And also it was like, seeing like We Are Your Friends with all your friends, like, from this like French DJ duo who like is popular, but like only to people who, know at that time. I was just like, like that's what it's about. On the other side of the spectrum of that, I mean, like, I gotta say some Goose stuff, right? Like,
Of course, I mean, I think you would be
yeah,
remiss.
I would be remiss. I think for this past run, the first night of St. Augustine was
Yeah.
like, I've never heard a crowd like that with them, and it was just like being in that energy of like people just like losing their freaking minds over them. I was like really, it was very cool. It was similar vibes to the Eras Tour, the same crowd energy, same excitement, like
We
you
joke
know.
it, but there is
But
lines to be drawn.
yeah, it exists. And that was really cool. I mean, I've been lucky enough to be at a lot of their really, really great shows. I think all of their shows are great, personally. Uh,
That was a little Eras Tour hand placement for Goose. See, another dot connected.
both the same. I don't know where that comes from either. But yeah, I think that night one in St. Augustine, just like they were really on like the like just like the back and forth energy between band and crowd just like kept going all night, and I feel like there are moments of that in a lot of their shows, but like to have it like from start to finish was just like a really special show. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I think this year has been a little they went through a major change less than a year ago. And
Yeah.
I think that when people get to see them now, they're like, thank God. Goose is still good and we still got him and the show's great. And like it's a lot of people's first time checking out Cotter or whatever the thing is. And so I felt like that at all of the California shows. Sometimes like LA or some of these California spots can be a little like too cool for school because they get everything, and they
Yeah.
like no one's a fan of everything. But like I remember at the LA show, I was like, wow, this crowd is like one of the better LA crowds I've ever, even at this venue, been at. Like, and you
Yeah.
see really cool stuff at the Greek Theater, but like that was a really cool, good
Yeah.
audience that was like fired up to see Goose.
Yeah. And then the Troubadour show was like, I mean, I felt like that show was crazy. I hadn't done a show that small with them yet, and like
Yeah.
to be in like that intimate of an environment with like them and the band and the crew and the fans and like I don't know, and then have like Will Forte come out and do War Pigs. It was just like really like that to me was like I was just like what? Like this is awesome. And the
Yeah.
Troubadour is like also such a legendary venue, so like getting to shoot there with a band that I like really love was really cool. Yeah.
It's such a classic. I love the Troubadour. I didn't get to go to that show, but thinking about like seeing a band, not, I mean, I've seen some really good acts at the Troubadour so far, but like Goose is playing fucking the Greek Theater down the street. So like thinking about seeing them in a small room like that here in the States and not in Europe or something like that, I was like, damn, wish I would have made that one work. But yeah, the Troubadour is so cool. It like has not changed much in like the best way possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a fucking blast. Damn it.
It was
It's a new segment
it
on the show called
was.
Near Misses. Damn it. Should have.
Should have gone. It's the shoulda coulda woulda section.
Yeah,
Um
right.
yeah, no, that was like a really special show. And also just like, I live in West Hollywood, so like it was just like having a local venue that, I don't know, there's a lot that was really cool. And like that venue's so historic. I think for me, every time I get to be in a venue, shooting a venue that like I can see a photo of like a band that I am like obsessed with, like, your Zeppelins or like your Nirvanas or like, your Jonies or like whoever it is, like playing that stage and it looks pretty similar. I'm like, yes, like this
Sick.
is very sick. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you
So
walk in, there's a Joan Baez guitar on the wall,
yeah,
and you're like, okay, this is pretty cool. This is
that's
a
pretty
cool place.
cool, like, yeah. So I think, part of the reason I love living in West Hollywood is there's just like so much of that history. There's so much rock and roll history in that neighborhood. So it's
Oh yeah.
cool. Yeah.
It's very cool. And yeah, it feels like you get to kind of go back to it a little bit when you go to a cool older venue like that. Alpine Valley is like that in Wisconsin, but the big version. Like they've never
Yeah.
changed it. It still feels like you're in the 80s in a good way,
Yeah. In the
in a
best
cool way.
way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that.
And then there's places like that are not like that so much. Like we saw when we ran into each other this summer, I was wearing a picture that you took at the Sphere. I was wearing it on a necklace, and
Yes,
that's
that was
the
crazy.
Sphere is not the Troubadour. Very
No,
different.
that is very
I would
different.
I would
Very
say
cool
different.
though. Very cool though. Still cool, and I think will now going forward become like a kind of iconic venue, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And like when we all like, you know, had like robot friends and like are in flying cars, like it will be like, oh, do you remember that show at the Sphere? It was so cool. Or we'll all be dead. So either or.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. Either way. Either way, whether I tell my kids that I saw Goose the Troubadour or Fish at the Sphere, either way, they're gonna think it's lame. They're gonna
Either
be
way, they're
like,
not gonna know what I'm talking about. So
I don't
it'll
give a
be
shit about that.
fine. Very funny. I do, despite like the thousands of photos I take, like I keep all my laminates and like creds, which is like kind of
Yeah.
lame. But I'm like, no, because one day if I have children, like this is what I'll show them to show them I was cool. Not the pictures
Yeah.
I took that said I was there, but the fact that I have this plastic thing that they won't give two craps about. That's what's gonna make me cool, you know,
It is
as a
cool. It's super cool. Like that's and I think that there is, like you said, it's like lame to keep your laminates or whatever. Like only amongst um people who are lame. Like people who are lame would think that's lame. I think that like being someone who's like, I am a fan of this. This is something that's cool, and I do want to remember this time because it might not last forever. I might not be shooting Goose forever, or like might not be going to small venues like this forever or getting these cool credentials. So yeah, I'm gonna keep
yeah,
them, okay,
yeah.
and I'm gonna
That's
cherish them with my
exactly.
memories because I'm a
Those are the
fan.
memes.
Those
Exactly.
are the
I think
memes.
it's I think that's the thing too. It's like shooting fish at the Sphere. Like have loved fish for a very long time, and so like getting a laminate with my name on it for fish, I was just like, that is
It's
really
fucking cool.
cool.
It's really fucking cool. I keep the fucking like VIP paper wristbands that I
Yeah,
get. Like if I ever
that's
get like a
cool.
it's cool. There's like not even a logo of the venue. It's just an orange paper wristband. I'm like, yeah, but
You're
I
like,
get it.
but I got it.
But I got one. Yeah, and I think that it is sometimes it's assumed that like you can't really blur the line between like fandom and professionalism. And I think that that is wrong. I think that some of the people who are the fans of your music who are professionals could probably do work better than anyone, else that you could possibly ask
Because
because
of
they get it.
fans. Yeah. Yeah,
They get it.
I think sometimes like yeah, you gotta get it to like put on a great show, you know. So
Yeah, that 1000%. And do great work. Or do your best work. And with that, do you have your best show that you've ever seen or been at or attended in any fashion?
it's such a hard question. But I've been thinking about it since you asked me to be on the show. So I've put in thought.
Yeah.
And I think for me it has to be a Fish show. Because I think Fish is so much of like where like has gotten me to where I am now, you know, and
Yeah.
like so in a lot of different ways. It's also like a deep like my sisters who got me into fish, so that's like another my sister who, you know, smoked a cigarette for the Too Cool for the Spice Girls is who got me
Yeah. Right.
into fish, which tracks,
Of
I
course.
think.
Of
Uh,
course.
but I started going to shows with her in '09, and we were like indicted. We went to camp in Maine. So we had a lot of camp counselors who were like, when they came back, were like, you're old enough, like let's ride.
Yeah.
And
Right.
we did New Year's 2010, which was like the meat stick year where they came in
Oh
on the
yeah.
hot dog. And I had just been to enough shows at that point that was a show where I was like, I get it, and I am one of them. And I think that to me is probably my best show ever because it like finally like everything just finally clicked, you know, like I finally felt like a real fan. I knew enough people in the community. I was there with like my sister who's also like my bestie, and I was just like, yeah, I get it, like I get it, and I feel like I'm a part of it, and that's a cool time, you know.
Oh yeah. I mean, I also got ushered in by an older sibling who Yeah, like it's easy to like when you're coming into your own and you're trying to find your own music and you're like, my parents listen to this, my older sibling listens to this. What do I listen to? And I got a lot of Fish through osmosis.
Yeah.
And it's easy to make fun of all of those heady Fish people in your life. The camp counselors, you're like, oh yeah, you guys going to fucking like even like when you're younger, like and you're in high
Yeah.
school and you're like the coolest person in the fucking world. Like
Yeah.
it's easy to be like, oh yeah, you
Yeah.
guys going to like what? Take mushrooms at the Fish show? Cool, man. And then yeah, when you start realizing that maybe some of the interests that you have actually kind of cross over, you're like, okay, listen to this. Also, my
Yeah.
sister thinks it's cool, so I want her to think I'm cool.
I
So
want her to think I'm so cool, you know?
yeah, of course, yeah. And I did the same with my brother, and I wanted his friends to think I was cool and not lame, and and then all of a sudden you go to a show and you're like, whoa, this is a lot more me than I thought it was, you
Yeah.
know? And the
Exactly.
production value of New Year's is like talking about production value, talking about huge, massive shows. You're like, okay, this is
Yeah.
one of the coolest things I've seen in MSG, and I've seen the fucking Spice Girls in
And I
MSG.
saw the
Okay,
fucking Spice Girls here, you know? To see the hot dog flying in, you're just like, whoa.
whoa,
I think like I had been like my sister got into Fish and I had been like into electronic music. So like for me, I was like I was kind of like, all right, like whatever this is that you really like. But she like knew all, she'd read the book, so she was
oh
like,
yeah,
the first show, like she was like, okay, so then there's this book, and like she was like telling, in my ear, like telling me everything that I could, and then there's this guy and his name is Wilson, and I was like, okay, like what is
you're
happening?
like,
And I,
great.
it's like, and the lizard people, and I'm just like, okay, you sound crazy, because when someone tells you this, you're just like, like I like DJs, but like for sure, whatever you got going.
Like, I hope they play Cavern. I don't know what any of that other stuff is. I
Like,
just hope. Yeah,
good for you. And as the more I saw them, the more I saw them, and the more I looked around at the people around me, like losing their shit to certain songs, the more I was like, I want to feel that way. I want to hear that song and lose my shit.
yeah,
Um, and figure out what that song is for me and figure out why, And I think, yeah, just like getting indicted into like that fandom was like a really, and like finally feeling like I belonged at New Year's 2010. I think that was like um a big moment for me. So best show ever for a lot of reasons, but I also like, I think, put me on the path of like, oh, I like this. Like I really like jam bands. And I dabbled in the world of jam before, but not in this way. And I think, yeah, it like opened up a whole new genre of music for me too. So that was also like a big thing. And
yeah.
fandom.
Oh yeah, were you listening to a bunch of the shows? Like, were you listening to the shows that you went to after you went and saw them, and then did you
Yeah.
start listening to a ton of Fish? Like
Yeah.
the shows that were coming out and all that.
Yeah, yeah. And I had listened, like, I'd been a fan of the Dead, not in like a way where I, was like a diehard or like, but like, I knew the Dead, but I was like a bit like when I was listening to like music on my Walkman and then iPod, I guess, like,
Oh yeah,
it was really big like Zeppelin Rolling Stones girl. Like I was like really into that like genre of rock, and I didn't really venture too much into like anything like super jammy. I mean, Zeppelin to me was jammy, but I was like, they can play a 19-minute song and that makes them jammy, I guess.
yeah,
Uh,
right.
but I think, yeah, I think it like really, and also like, yeah, I started listening to live shows really for the first, like, I had before, but like not in the same way of like shows I was at, because I think that was like a whole new thing for me too. And so that was really, yeah, that's cool.
It is cool. And I also came from that like classic rock. My parents are not deadheads. They like proggy shit. Like they liked like Yes or Rush or bands that will pull off like a 16-minute song, but that's all like composed, and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they were not listening to Jerry noodling. Like the closest they got to that was like the Allman Brothers. They like the Allman Brothers.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that Fish is way more of that sensibility. Like Fish does way more Zeppelin type shit or way more like classic rock
Yeah.
type shit in their shows than like like a spacey noodly bird song. Like there's not a
Yeah.
lot of like that type of they fucking
Vibes.
rip
Yeah.
sometimes, and they'll
Yeah.
like, have all these different
Yeah.
effects and all that kind of stuff. And I like that Fish or a Fish fit in my little puzzle of music with all the stuff that I liked. Not better than the Dead. I mean, I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan, but I think I loved Fish first because it was
Yeah.
a little bit more that like Rolling Stones,
Zeppelin
that
vibe.
sort of
Yeah.
classic rock. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I felt that way too. I also like, like there was covers I knew and like I don't know, I just like it was a more accessible alley into that world for me. And I like the first time I heard Karini live, I lost my fucking mind because I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, like
Yes. I've done the
this is
homework.
it.
I've hunted. And now I've caught my thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Fish is funny. Like Fish is really funny, and I think that there's a lot of music that's so self-serious. There's a lot
Yeah.
of every genre. Like metal can be very self-serious. The Dead stuff can, like jam music can be very self-serious. Fucking electronic music can be like really self-serious, and Fish is like really silly. And there's parts of the show where you're
Yeah.
like, what? What the fuck was that? Like when you first start seeing them, you're like, "Wait, they just end it like that?
Yeah,
That whole,
yeah. Like
or
the
like
whole thing
whatever."
is just yeah, I think my first show ever I saw them do the trampolines and that was like in '09 and I was
Like, what?
like why? Like what's and my sister was like, the trampolines. I was like,
The whole place is
what
going
are you
nuts.
doing? And I'm just like, I don't get it, but like I'm glad they're doing it. And then they
I'm
do it in synchronicity and you're like, oh yeah. Yeah, it's a quick get. It's a quick get for sure. But yeah, I think I would be remiss to not put Fish as a best show ever for me. And like now I get to shoot with them and like I get to shoot Goose and I like got to do the show at the Sphere and like and I've gotten to shoot New Year's at MSG and I think like for me it's like really a full circle moment because it's just like yeah, to get to work at a show that like for you was such like a like holy shit like one day moment is like really it's special. It's cool.
it's very special. It's very cool. And it shows that if you really do love this stuff and you work really hard and you start putting out things that you believe in, that you never know what kind of connection could be made
Yeah.
between you and the stuff that you like. It's a very, very cool reminder. And like thinking about you looking around these shows and all the cool sights at a Fish show that were like blowing your mind, and now you're like, I'll just capture all those.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
my yeah.
It's crazy to like have been in the crowd and like watch the lights and be like, whoa, and then to like be in the pit and watch the lights and be like, whoa, camera. Like it's
Look
just
back at
like
your camera, you're like, got it, nice.
but
Or
there are
the guy the guy
there are
freaking out, like the guy freaking out to a song, like you get to capture that moment for people,
yeah,
and
yeah. And I think like that to me is really cool. And I think also having been a fan and still being a fan, like like when people are gonna throw the glow sticks during Harry
yeah.
Hood. Like, like
Yeah,
you get
right.
to like you get to kind of know the moments and like be a part of it while also capturing it. And that's really cool too. And there's definitely moments where I'm like in the crowd and I'm watching the show, like when they did Carini at Mondegreen, and I was like, I know I have to pick up a camera right now. Like it's in
Yeah.
my hands, but like I'm just gonna stand here for like a solid minute and just like be in
Y-
it for a second.
Someone else has
Um,
got it.
Someone else has got it. I'm lucky enough that I work with incredible people and really great teams across the board that when I want to just like take a second, I know someone is also crushing it, and that's also a really cool thing. So yeah.
Yeah, watching you and Adam just not really like work off of each other, but just that day I got to hang with Goose and seeing you guys be together and like goof around during the day, and then I'm
Yeah.
at the show and watching you, be around the venue and work and stuff. It's just got to be very cool knowing that, yeah, you've got these other like great photographers. They've got your back in case you do just want to take a breather and enjoy a
Yeah.
Carini or whatever it might be. But yeah, yeah. I mean, it was really fun to just kind of shoot the shit with you guys that day and let me bother you.
Yeah, I literally please anytime. No, I mean I'm lucky. Like Berto's a great photographer and he's really really good at what he does. And like talk about somebody who like knows and loves the band. Like he
Yeah.
like really like and has been there way longer than me. And so to have his knowledge of like the band and watch him shoot is very, very cool. And same goes for like there are people on Alive that I shoot fish with, and like some of them didn't know who Fish was, before they started shooting, and some of them have been fans for a long time, and it's cool to work with those people too and like see that dynamic. And then obviously working with Renee is like awesome.
Oh
He
yeah.
also, knows and loves the band so deeply, and so to just sort of like watch him work and see the moments that he knows are coming that like maybe even sometimes like well, I don't know it's coming or other people don't know it's coming is kind of cool. It's like that anticipatory factor of like shooting a show that is cool to watch other people do too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, what do you feel like you've gotten to learn off of like the jam shows in and of themselves are very just it's hard to capture what's happening because it's all very like ephemeral stuff that's going on in the room, little moments that kind of
Yeah.
fleet and fly away. And like Fish and Goose does a good job of setting up these moments where you know where some of them are coming, but like yeah, it's kind of hard to prepare for a band that doesn't prepare, or a
Yeah,
band that
yeah.
doesn't, a band that improvises completely. Are there things that you've learned off of some of these other photographers where you're like, damn, that was brilliant, or man, that's just an instinct thing? And
Yeah, I'd say a lot of it is, I mean, some of it is like just being at the shows and like learning. And then I think some of it is yeah, some of it is instinct and like really like you have to, and I will say sometimes I'm not the best at this. Like you have to really be listening while you're capturing. And I think like it's easy for a lot of photographers, including myself, to kind of just like Getty's doing something crazy with the lights and like my brain just stops hearing anything. I'm just like, woo, like look
yeah,
at
right.
that.
Right.
That looks sick. And I think yeah, I think like, having the instinct of like knowing where the jam is going or like knowing who it's getting passed to or sort of who becomes like in the lead of it is like really important. And I'd say Adam, Renee, like a lot of the guys I work with are like really, really attuned to that, and it's cool to watch that. I will say Peter forever and always keeps me on my toes in terms of like when it's a Yeti or like anytime where he's gonna like move across the stage, I'm like, where are you going? What are you doing? Are you gonna go? Are you not gonna go? Are you gonna do it now? Are you gonna jump on the speaker? Like he
Yeah.
well for whenever I think I know what he's gonna do, I'm always very, very wrong. And so it's just like forever and always being prepared to like capture whatever he decides to do. And I've told him this. Like, you just always surprise me. But
You're
that's a
like,
good thing.
can we talk about creatures a little bit? So what when you run away from the band,
when,
why
when you
what do you want me to fucking do when you do Peter?
like
That's so
just
funny. And he's so expressive, and he is such a point of like when you're watching a Goose show, you end up watching Peter a lot just because there's a lot going on, but it
yeah.
moves quickly. It's there and it's gone.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, my favorite moments to capture always are like when they're all, and I love the new stage setup for this, is like
Yeah.
you can see when they're all looking at each other or at one of them. And I think like when they're all looking to Cotter and like, he ends it really, really sick and like Rick makes a face, like that moment, capturing that moment to me now is like really, I'm like, yes, like that's it. That's the shot for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that stuff that's really hard to hold on to. That's the
Yeah.
stuff that's kind of hard to like even when you're at the show, like you can miss that. Yeah, so capturing that stuff that's very cool. It's
It's
very
cool.
cool, man.
I'm so tempted to do the hand thing again, but I'm gonna
Do the
try to
hand
refrain.
thing. That's the only way we could possibly end off.
There
Uh,
it is.
do you have any shows coming up that you're excited to shoot, or any shows coming up that you're not shooting that you're just excited to see?
That's a good question. I am not really. I don't have any. My next show is Goose Miss, which I'm stoked on. It's my first Goose Miss.
Oh shit.
Never shot a goose nest before. Never been to a goose nest before. I'm very excited. Um,
Last year Goosemas is one of the most fun weekends I've ever had in my entire life. And
best show ever.
it's in there. It's in that honorable mention. Like the whole weekend was fucking just so much fun. And I will be there again this year. I can't wait to see it.
Here to see you. Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I'm stoked. I'm stoked to like be a part of it finally. I've known so much about it, and like I've been very bummed to have missed it. And then I think I'll be at MSG with Fish again for New Year's, hopefully. So, just running it
What
back.
what have I That's sick. I'm doing what I can to do. I'm getting to like host a couple like night zero type things for the Goosemas deal, which is helping me get out there, but Fish would just be fully out
Full
of the
send.
pocket, just
Yeah.
fucking doing it and flying from San Francisco, as you know, not
Yeah.
close, not cheap.
Yeah.
So,
I'm lucky I'm from New York and my sister still lives there. My parents still
oh
live
yeah.
there. So it has made that run easier, but now that I get to work it is nice. And it's,
Yeah, I've got friends in New York that are like, you cannot stay with me if you're doing the Fish thing. I can't be a part of this.
you're like my couch is closed, but thank you so much.
I can't watch you keep doing this to yourself.
It's hurting me. It just hurts me.
It's really hard to watch.
I get it. My parents have been dealing with me and my sister both for many, many New Years being like, they're like, are you doing the thing again? Again? To the thing with the fishes?
Yeah.
My parents
With the fishes.
oh they every day on tour I get a text of like, how are the geese? Are the geese good? And then on Halloween my mom was like, are they gonna dress up as ravens? I was like, do you think they dress up as geese every night? I'm very confused. That's the question.
Yeah, their crowd goes crazy for that full Raven set. When they go Raven mode.
They love to raven.
My dad, I was on the phone with my dad, and I asked him what he's been listening to. He's like, I just listened to the Gooses a little bit. He's like, those guys, he's like, they started one song and it was like 25 minutes later. I was like, the Gooses are still going right now. And I'm like, the Gooses? There's a plural for that.
The geese, the fishes, they're all just swimming around, having a good time.
Oh, yeah. I am gonna end it right there. That's a perfect ending line. Okay, so that was my conversation with Juliana. It was a great one. Man, always have so much fun when we run into each other. Like we said, she was there for that San Diego day, and just that's who I kind of did all my goofing off with. She was working. She was very clearly busy, and I very clearly wasn't, and I was bothering her. But always a blast to see her and the Goose crew. Check out the other episode that I have out right now with Jen from Dire on the Mountain. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please feel free to subscribe to the YouTube, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. All that stuff helps out with the algorithm of it all. And so that would be greatly appreciated. But until next time, guys, have a great show.